Hey folks, it is Philly Boy J back on another day, showing you guys how to make chicken and dumplings another way. Here are the seasonings that you're going to need. You're going to need garlic powder, ground black pepper, chicken bouillon, cubes, thyme seasoning, turmeric. Not a lot of people use that, but I do. It's going to give it color. You're going to need bay leaves, salt for flavor and taste. And you're going to need some parsley flakes to garnish it with towards the end. And we're going to be putting that in our dumplings to give our dumplings a nice look. Dumplings just don't look right without parsley flakes. Okay. Now we're going to move on and focus on the vegetables that you're going to be needing. Okay. Now I like to get the frozen pack of green peas. Okay, so make sure you have that. You're going to need one large size yellow or white onion. You're going to need 3 ribs of celery and 2 carrots. I use 2 in my chicken and dumplings. Okay, now you're going to need some baking powder for the dumplings. You're going to need some all-purpose flour for the dumplings. You're going to need some butter and some regular whole milk and sour cream. Now I know y'all probably saying, why this boy putting turmeric and sour cream in his chicken and dumplings? But that's because it's Philly Boy J, and Philly Boy J always do things a little different. You understand? You're also going to need some chicken broth. Okay, that's for additional flavor, so make sure you have some chicken broth, guys. Now I'm going to show you guys how I chop my celery. I showed you guys in previous videos, but for those of you who are new to watching my videos, this is the way that I chop my celery, specifically for when I'm making chicken and dumplings. Okay, so I slice it down the middle about 2 times because I want it to be as thin as possible. You don't want your celery to be really, really big. They're going to shrink a bit anyway, and I'll explain why in a few minutes later on in the video. But I'm going to slice it down the middle like that, and then we're going to cut it down the sides, okay, like this. You want to cut them thin as possible because you want them to be rather small. You don't want really big chunks of celery in the chicken and dumplings. The chicken and dumplings. I don't want no big celery in my chicken and dumplings. Dumplings, dumplings. Ooh. I'm being silly, guys. Some people don't mind. I know I can't sing. So here's the celery. That's the way your celery looks. And we're going to be using all of them. Now I'm going to cut my carrots. And what you can do is you can actually put one hand on the knife over top of the knife and press it down just to apply extra pressure so that it's easier to cut. Okay, and that's the way your carrots should look, like that. We're going to chop up our onion. Okay, going to chop up the onion, and I'm also going to be dicing that into really small pieces as well, just like that. Okay, so that's the way your onion should look. So we chopped up all our veggies, okay, except the peas. No need to chop them up. We're going to be adding them last as well. Now we're going to make our dumplings. I like to make my dumplings early in the process because I like it to stiffen up a bit, okay? So that's 2 cups of all-purpose flour, okay? I'm going to be using 4 teaspoons of baking soda. Now, most recipes probably call for like 2 or 1.5, but the baking soda is what makes your dumplings really fluffy and give it like a nice, soft, chewy texture. You don't want it to be really rubbery or tough, okay? So that's why I add a lot of baking soda. Just explain it to you guys. Now the parsley flakes, you don't need it. I just think that it gives the dumplings a nice, pretty, sexy look, you know. And you know, I'm an artist, so you know, when I cook, cooking is an art for me. I want my food to come out looking pretty, okay? I want it to taste good, but I want it to look good too. And you're gonna use 1 teaspoon of salt. 1 big teaspoon of salt. Okay? And I'm going to just stir this in. And you want to stir this in, guys, for approximately 2 minutes, because you want to make sure that everything is evenly distributed, like the salt and the baking powder. You want to make sure it's all around in the dry mixture. We're going to add about 3/4 cups of milk to this. Into the milk, we're going to add 4 tablespoons of butter. If you don't have butter, you can use vegetable oil. Now, I haven't tried it with any other oil before, so I'm not going to tell you to use it, but you can either use butter or vegetable oil. I don't know if olive oil and all them other oils will work. What you're going to do is you're going to microwave it for 2 minutes just to melt the butter, because you want the butter to be soft. And then you're going to stir it together. Okay? So after you put the butter in the milk, make sure you microwave it so that it can dissolve and melt into the milk. Okay? You're going to stir it up really well. And then we're going to add this to the dry ingredients that we mixed a minute ago. Okay? Add that to that. And now we're going to stir it in. And make sure you don't overwork this, guys. Never overwork any dough mixture. You do not want to do that. Do not overwork it. Okay, so I'm only going to stir it a few times. And it may seem a little wet at first, but that's why you sit it in the refrigerator. Okay, until it's time to add the dumplings to the soup. Okay, so we're going to sit that in the refrigerator. And we're going to move on to the next step. Now, here's our chicken. I have 3 chicken breasts. Now, I'm going to add this to a pot of water, and I'm going to boil them. And I'm only going to boil them for about 20 minutes. It don't take chicken breast too long because you don't want it to be tough. You want it to be tender. So 20 minutes should be enough. I'm going to boil it on medium heat. And we're going to add water to this pot here. I want to let you guys know, and this is just a recommendation. I usually like to add chicken meat that I already cooked. So if you have like some fried chicken from the night before, or you know, if you baked a whole chicken a couple days ago and you don't know what to do with the remaining meat, chop that up and use that for your chicken and dumplings. I usually don't prefer to do it this way because I don't like to boil my meat, but it comes out good. Just have to make sure that you don't boil it too long because you don't want it to be tough. Okay. Now what you're going to notice as it's boiling is that this white stuff is going to appear. Okay. You want to remove that white stuff. Remove as much as possible. You're not going to dump out that water because that water is kind of like chicken broth. Even though we're going to be using chicken broth, that's kind of like, it has that natural chicken flavor in it from the chicken that we're boiling. So you're not going to get rid of all of that water, but you might want to dump a little bit of that water out. Okay, so after you remove all that white stuff, you're going to remove your chicken. It's been 20 minutes. You don't want to overcook them. 20 minutes to a half an hour, that should be enough. Don't take boneless cooking long to cook it all. But I'll say 20 minutes. When you can stick your knife through it and it's cooked all the way, you good. We're going to let that sit for a while because they hot. So we're not going to chop it up into pieces now. What you're going to do now is, to that same pot of water that we removed the chicken from, you're going to add all of your vegetables. Your celery, your onions, and your carrots that we chopped up earlier. Okay? And what we're going to do here is we're going to let this cook for a while because we want our carrots and our celery to kind of soften a little bit. You're going to also add your 2 bay leaves. That's going to give it additional flavor. So we're kind of creating like a chicken vegetable broth here. And the bouillon cubes is going to add even more flavor, okay, to the soup juice. It's kind of the way we made the chicken noodle soup with the soda on the side. Okay, so I'm going to add 3 chicken flavor bouillon cubes. You can add 4 if you want it to have a real nice chicken flavor. But now we got that chicken flavor from the chicken. We got the chicken flavor from the chicken bouillon cubes. And then we're going to add some chicken broth later on. in a few seconds. With the seasonings, I recommend that you use about 1 teaspoon of thyme seasoning. Thyme is really strong, so don't use a lot of that. You're going to use about 1 tablespoon of garlic powder. You can use minced garlic as a substitution. Some people like to go the fresh route. You can use minced garlic. Sometimes when making chicken and dumplings, I have used fresh minced garlic. If you do use minced garlic, I would recommend that you only use about, I would say, a tablespoon of that as well. Okay? We're going to use 2 tablespoons of salt. Now, if you can't have salt because you have high blood pressure, you don't have to use salt. Bouillon cubes have a little bit of salt in it. But if you don't add salt, it's going to come out pretty bland. You're going to taste the flavors of the thyme and the other seasonings that we use, but it's not going to have any taste. Salt gives your food taste. So I use 2 tablespoons of salt. And because we're making a nice amount here, it's not going to be really, really salty. So don't worry about that. And I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of ground black pepper. Okay? So those are all the seasonings that we added. You know, we got our little vegetable broth going on here. Now we're going to add the chicken broth. I only added about a half of that bottle. I don't know how big that bottle was, but if I had to give you an amount, I would say add a cup of water and a cup of chicken broth. Or either 2 cups of water and 1 cup of chicken broth. So you should have about approximately 3 to 4 cups of liquid in the pot at this time. Okay? You don't need a lot of liquid. So we're gonna just let this go on medium heat. Let that go on medium heat, and we'll take it out once the carrots are tender. Then we know that it's pretty much done. Okay. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna chop up our chicken. Okay. Like I said, if you're already using chicken that's already cooked, you're not going to need to chop this up. But if you decided to go ahead and boil your chicken because you didn't have any pre-cooked chicken, it's going to chop your chicken up into shredded pieces like that. You can chop them up into any kind of shapes you want. Okay. But I like to shred mine up like that right there. Okay. So there goes our shredded chicken. Okay. And it's been a little while now, as you can see. Look at that. Look at the broth. It's gotten darker. You can see now that it has a lot of flavor for letting it cook a little while, letting all them seasonings and flavors blending together. You got the celery there. The carrots are cooked. What you're going to do is you're going to get a bowl. You're only going to use about a pint of sour cream. Okay, now this is what I think give chicken and dumplings an additional really, really, really good flavor. It's a little secret that I decided to use. But I end up finding out, guys, that other people actually do it too. Not many people. It's not common, but other people do it. I was like, oh, somebody stole my recipe. But here you got the sour cream, the pint of sour cream. You're going to add 4 to 6 tablespoons of flour. And that's going to thicken that broth in that pot up because we want it to be a little thick. Okay, when you're making chicken and dumplings, you want the gravy to be a little thick. You don't want it to be like soup, really loose. And you're going to add 1 to 2 tablespoons of turmeric. I recommend that you add 2. You're going to add about a cup of water, maybe a cup and a half, and you're going to stir this up. And this is really, really important, guys. You have to make sure that the sour cream is stirred up. And it might take you 3 to 4 minutes to stir all this up. But make sure that there's no lumps of sour cream left. You want to stir it up. You want it to be nice and smooth. If you don't stir your sour cream up, when you add it to that hot broth, it's going to curdle. And you're going to be left with big, nasty looking, soft knots. Okay, that's what happens when you put sour cream in hot water. It just don't mix. Just like oil and water don't mix, sour cream and hot water don't mix. So you have to soften it before adding it to the hot water. And as you can see there, I was holding the spoon while pouring it in just to make sure that there was no lumps of sour cream that was still in the bowl that I didn't miss, that I possibly missed. So make sure you smash the sour cream down really nice and stir it up really, really well. Make sure you look in the bowl. Make sure there's no lumps in there. And then you're going to add that to, you know, the pot. I'm removing the bay leaves now. That was my dumplings. As you can see, it kind of stiffened up. You're going to create like medium-sized balls. It depends on how big you like your dumplings. I usually, you know, make them into like tablespoon sizes. I like mine a little chunky, not too big. You don't want them to be too big because you want them to kind of cook all the way through. Once you put them in the pot, you're going to allow it to continue cooking on about low heat for 10 minutes or until the dumplings are cooked all the way through. Okay, so cook it for about 10 to 15 minutes. That should be enough time to cook your dumplings and cook it all the way through. I'm adding it to the pot, and you can see what they do is they tend to rise to the top. Once they rise to the top, you want to very gently turn them over. Once your dumplings rise to the top, you know they're done halfway through, and you want to turn them over. And we're doing this on low, medium heat, low or medium. Okay, so turn them over. And now we're going to add all of that chicken, and we're going to add all of our peas, and then we're going to cut the fire off. Okay, that's the way it look. You can let your fire continue and let it continue cooking if you want to thicken it up a little bit more. If you feel like it's not thick enough for you, you can add a little bit more flour. But trust me, guys, when you cut it off and you let it sit, it's going to thicken up. So you might not need to add any more flours. Like I said, 4 to 6 tablespoons should be enough. Okay, going to add our peas. And I know y'all saying, where the carrots and the meat at? Sunk to the bottom. Look at it. Look at that. See how nice and thick it is? Oh. Guys, the sour cream gives this a wonderful taste. You know what? I even tell you guys this. It's what I recommend actually too. I recommend that you add your flour and water first. And then after you cut your fire off, after it's all done, let your chicken and dumplings sit. Then add the sour cream. Like stir the sour cream in your bowl. Okay? And stir it up really well. Then you can warm it up. It even gives it even more flavor. You can really taste that sour cream. And the sour cream flavor is not really, really strong for those of you who don't, you know, like sour cream, but it just gives it an extra oomph. Just give it that taste, and it really comes out good. I hope you guys enjoy this recipe. This is Philly Boy J showing you how I make my chicken and dumplings. Peace.